The other day, I got a message from a client telling me she had this huge penny drop moment while working through the last part of my online journey. And somewhere in that conversation, she casually mentions she's already down 7 pounds. Now, while that stood out, what stood out even more was her saying that working with her mind is what's making the change. She told me she's never taken this approach before and that she thought it was very clever. The interesting part is that she didn't lose those 7 pounds by following a new meal plan because they don't hand out meal plans. So if it wasn't the food, what actually changed? It's probably the question I get asked the most. And honestly, it's a fair question. If you are not restricting anything, how does the weight actually come off? Toxic diet culture has taught us that losing weight comes from restriction. There's almost this sense that if you've been a bad girl and you've eaten the bad foods, now you have to punish yourself, cut out everything you enjoy, survive on kale and lettuce leaves, and maybe you'll lose a few pounds. And if you don't, well, guess what? It's your fault too. So if my client didn't do that, what happened? This is something I see over again with the people I work with. We never start with weight loss as the goal, yet it almost always starts happening within the first couple of weeks. Here's what actually happens. Most of the extra eating in someone's day has very little to do with physical hunger. It's the response to an unmet need. It could be comfort, stress relief, reward, distraction. Sometimes it's even something as simple as not preparing your day in advance. That one catches me often. Whatever the reason, it all comes back to the same thing. A signal your brain is sending that has nothing to do with the food itself. I call this signal decoding. It's learning to read what the craving is actually asking for instead of responding with food. When you learn to recognize what that signal is actually asking for and you start meeting the real need instead of automatically reaching for the food, something changes. That craving simply isn't as loud as it used to be because for the first time, the need underneath is being handled. That understanding is only one piece of the puzzle. Once you layer that understanding with learning how to eat like a human again, instead of following another set of diet rules, everything starts falling into place. You're no longer fighting yourself every day. You are working with your brain through a process called neuroplasticity. And that's where the weight starts coming off. People don't suddenly become more disciplined. That honeymoon phase of willpower wears out. What does work is when you're no longer using food to solve problems that food was never meant to solve. Do the cravings disappear completely? No, I'm human too. The past couple of weeks I've been dealing with sugar cravings. The difference is that I know where they're coming from. I know how to work around them. And I know how to taper them off without feeling restricted or like I'm punishing myself. That same client and I, later in the conversation, were having a good giggle. I was telling her about how I was trying to not keep reaching for handfuls of macadamia nuts and dried cranberries. And she was telling me how she was trying to not keep going for apples and nut butter. What a wonderful problem to have. We could just as easily have been fighting off ice cream, biscuits, or any number of ultra-processed foods that are designed to keep us coming back for more. That clever part she mentioned doesn't feel like discipline because it's not. She's not spending every day white-knuckling away through cravings. The cravings simply aren't as loud anymore because she's finally dealing with what's underneath them. She's able to reflect. People often ask whether this is just intuitive eating. Not exactly. Intuitive eating encourages you to listen to your body, but it doesn't always teach you how to tell the difference between physical hunger and an emotional need. For example, I might think I really want a warm bowl of mashed potato. And yes, sometimes I genuinely do. But these days, I know that what I'm actually looking for might simply be warmth and comfort. Sometimes mashed potato is exactly the right answer. Other times, a hot cup of dandelion root tea gives me exactly what I needed. Different choices, same underlying need. And no, I didn't always want the dandelion root tea. It became part of my rhythm that I knew felt good. The same thing happened with food itself. A couple of years ago, if you'd offer me sauerkraut, anyone who knows me will know my face would screw up before I even tasted it. These days, there are times when I genuinely crave it. Never in a million years did I think my guilty pleasure would become handfuls of macadamia nuts and dried cranberries instead of a slab of chocolate. That's the part of intuitive eating that makes sense to me. Your body starts asking for things that genuinely support it. So, no, this isn't a once off insight. Once you understand what's driving these eating patterns, you can't really go back to thinking about food the same way again because suddenly everything starts making sense. That's why people can lose weight without calorie counting, macro tracking, or another restrictive meal plan. That's how my client cannot even finish the program and already start losing weight. And no, that doesn't mean eating unlimited ice cream because you enjoy it. It means finding another way to meet the same need. That's exactly why my recipe book is full of healthier alternatives because I have been through them myself. As you heal the unmet need underneath your eating, the foods you naturally reach for begin to change. So, if you're at the point where you're tired of plans that promise the world and quietly fall apart by week 2, we know they do because we love to start over on Monday, I invite you to try something different. Start with my free Cravings Decoder quiz. It takes about 2 minutes and it's the first step into signal decoding. It'll show you which pattern is running the show. Understanding that pattern is the first step. What you do with that understanding is the part that changes everything.